Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to discuss about writing task one. I'm not going to, touch the details when it comes to the basics. 150 word count. You have 20 minutes of time, so I'm going to skip all that. Okay, just an intro kind. Okay. Now, when it comes to academic writing, all right, the first thing is as soon as you have an access to the writing questions, I would request you to do something called as a groundwork. Groundwork is a time that you're going to plan as to what you're going to be writing in that particular, task, whether it is one or two for that matter. I would request you to spend initial 2 minutes of your time to actually prepare. Like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do during that 2 minutes of my time? First thing is, you are going to be reading the question carefully. As soon as you read the question carefully, understand as to what type of a diagram it is. There are different types like bar, line, pie, table, different types of map questions as well as man-made process and natural process. Okay. So we need to understand what type of a diagram it is. After I understand that, I'm going to check or rather read data. That is, what numbers have they given? Okay, number of years, if at all you want to, consider what units have they used for the measurement. Like they might give us like different currencies as well, pounds, dollars, euros. So you're going to check all those, what components, what years they have taken into consideration. I'm going to check for that data as well. And then I proceed. Let me repeat. As soon as, even before you start writing, please dedicate 2 minutes of your initial time to actually spend on planning what you're going to write so that your writing is going to be systematic. You read the question carefully first and then understand what the question is expecting. Then try and understand the type of diagram. Okay, the minute you see, you understand though. All right. And then you study the data. Okay, these are the numbers that I'm supposed to be taking into consideration. These are the countries that I need to compare and contrast. Now check how many points that you have to write when it comes to the body paragraph. Okay, I have like probably, 6 different products that they have taken into consideration. So I have probably 6 into 2, at least to 5 or 6 points. Now, let me, come back to the body paragraph later. I'll explain you that as well. Okay. And then you decide the paragraph layout. Now, what is this paragraph layout? See, irrespective of the type of a diagram, you will still have or you will still follow a 4 paragraph layout. That is, you will have introduction, then overview, then body paragraph 1, followed by body paragraph 2. I'm going to be explaining in detail what you need to be writing there. Let me just come back. Let me explain what you're going to plan initially. All right. After this, paragraph layout, what else? Later, I can start writing. Okay. Now, when you start writing, you will start with an introduction paragraph. Now, introduction paragraph is nothing but you are just going to paraphrase the question statement using similar words. But make sure, what do you mean by paraphrasing, by the way? Okay, let me give you an example. Let me just type in first. Similar words means, synonyms. Now, another thing, the most important thing that you need to remember while you paraphrase your question statement is you should never change the meaning that it conveys. Okay, let me type in that so that you remember. Never change the meaning it conveys. Let me give you an example. Now, I have a simple bar chart talking about this this bar chart shows these many products and these many countries and year. Instead of, see, when I have the word shows, I'm going to be using a similar like gives information about, depicts, provides, examines, explains, discusses. So these are the words that you could be using when you are writing an introduction. Let me just tell you, please mention the type of a diagram as well in the introduction when you paraphrase. That is, the bar chart gives information about five, you could be writing any time ways, five different, if at all they have given the word, let's say consumer products or consumer goods. So what I should be writing instead now, you should be having similar words handy. I could say durable products or durable goods. Okay. Then they're talking about an expenditure, probably, these consumers from so and so country. Now I have the word expenditure in the question statement. I'm going to be having similar words like amount of money spent, or what else? Cost, phrase as well that I could be using, or expenses. So these are the words that I'm going to be using. Please have, I would request all my students to have at least two or three similar words handy for all of these. When you use that, when you take that 2 minutes of your initial time to prepare, you could also check, oh yes, do I know similar words for all these words which is being given in the question statement? Now, what if I repeat the question statement? What big deal? If at all we use the same type of words that is already used in the question statement, that will not fetch us any marks. We will be marked down if we repeat them. Please do not use the same word or same phrases from the question statement anytime. We put in a lot of effort, time, money involved when it comes to, IELTS exam. So let's make sure we have similar words handy. Write, different types of introduction. That is all about introduction, where you're supposed to be paraphrasing the question statement. Next one is, oh yes, you could be talking about units measured in so and so. You could include that. Now, how many sentences do I need to have the introduction paragraph in? You could have one or two sentences. That's all, not more than that. Next one, that is overview paragraph. That is the second paragraph, which is an overview. So what am I going to be writing in the overview paragraph? Here as well, we could have just one or max two sentences. Please do not overdo this. Do not exceed the number of sentences. And you don't have to be adding any datas or numbers or years into consideration here. You could just write, full-fledged sentences. Now, what am I going to be writing? I could be talking about the summary of the overall trend. Okay, I could say summary, or I could say trend that I observe. Now, what if I talk about, okay, I just observed this component, one of the components which is the highest. So I'm going to throw light on that. I feel that is important, and I might take that as a summary. Now, someone else, might take the least unit into consideration, which is absolutely fine. Okay. But then, whatever sentences that you're going to be framing, that needs to be there in the diagram to support your, answers or sentences, please. I cannot just provide personal opinion. Probably, let's say, in one of the countries, people actually use a lot of cars or invest a lot of money on cars rather than on education kind. Probably those numbers that they have given, comparison that you need to draw. So I cannot say people in the UK are more focused on cars, fancy cars, rather than on education. No, that's a personal opinion that I draw. That's wrong. So I'm just going to talk about, whatever sentences I make, I need supporting data for the same from the diagram. All right. So don't, or rather avoid. Okay, let us go ahead. Now, the juiciest part of the writing task is nothing but the body paragraph. What am I going to be writing in body paragraph 1 and 2? Here, I could be talking about the first thing. I could read the diagram, check and understand the highest point. Okay, I'm just going to focus on that one point. And then to support, I'm going to give numbers or date, amount of time or is spent on social networking websites. So this is the number to it kind. And then I shall check which is the least and I shall take it as my second point. Now, after which, the next point, I'm going to compare and contrast these 2 points. using conjunctions. Now, when you provide data as well, this highest, please help us or please provide or include sequence connectors like firstly, primarily, then talk about these points, compare and contrast. Okay, there is a data, it says so and so stands at so and so. If at all I just explain the diagram as it is, you know, okay, people in France spend so and so amount of money on cars, on computers, on laptops, on perfumes, clothing. If at all I do that, that is not going to fetch any marks, let me tell you. If you have too many products or too many components that you need to probably write on, you could skip. Not every point is important. You can only highlight prominent ones. You don't have to include everything. Please remember, it is absolutely all right if you skip. Okay? So, highlighting the point is very prominent. When I was just, okay, when I have 8 different products that I take into consideration, probably I have explained only 4 products. I have drawn comparison between these 6 products. Absolutely fine. Two probably is not important at all. Those numbers do not include anything. If you really want to have a sentence, probably in about one of the body paragraphs, the last sentence you could say, clothing and on food, they which accounts for 12 and 14% respectively. So you really want to, you could just have that, somewhere. It is not important. And if it is absolutely all right if you skip as well. Okay. Next thing is you are going to be deciding on the type of words you're going to be using based on the diagram. See, when it comes to bar and line, there are different types of lexical resource that I'm going to be using. However, when I start with map questions, and when I start with process diagrams, there are different terminologies altogether. Please make sure, based on the diagram, based on the type of the diagram, you are going to decide the kind of word choice. Your vocabulary carries 25% of weightage, which is important. We have learned all the 4 paragraphs with what points, including vocabulary. Next one, the last and the most important part is grammar. That is grammatical range and accuracy. Now, what type of sentences am I supposed to be using? Now, is this acceptable or not? First thing, let us check what years. Probably it is now we are in 2022. So I have data somewhere given, which was 2010. So, of course, I could start the sentence with the past tense form. Please check and then decide what time frame you're going to be speaking or making sentences in. Okay, now because we've already discussed, we're going to be comparing. So we could be using the comparative adjective sentence structure. Any changes that takes place over a period of time, you could be using the present perfect tense. You don't have to learn all these tense in detail, let me tell you. Just learn the sentence structure. That's more than enough. Okay, then I could also be talking about my introduction is going to be in the present simple tense. Then, apart from this, as we have already discussed a lot of times before as well, please start using compound or complex sentences with suitable conjunctions. Now, what is a complex sentence? Two simple sentences or two independent clauses when I join them. Okay, I'm going to be having this sentence structure. Like when I use words like although, I need to know how to use it in a sentence. Okay, see, I have some word list conjunctions. If you want, I can share that as well. You can try and make sentences first. Now, what is the meaning of this word although? First of all, and then I make sentences and learn the usage or applicability when it comes to a specific context. All right. So this is what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to writing task one academic. You will have ample amount of content actually to write on. And do not exceed more than 200, please. We will be marked down in both the scenarios, under length and for over length. That is the reason they have specified. Okay, somewhere around probably 170 words is also acceptable, but please do not cross, because you only have 20 minutes of your time for this particular task. Oh, yes. The last and the most important point. How could I skip that? After all of this, I would request you to take a minute's time to quickly proofread at the end. Okay, you took 2 minutes initial time, you planned, you started writing, you're done with all of that, which is required according to parameters of writing task one. Last 1 minute, just quickly proofread whatever you've written. And I would request, if at all you opt for a paper based, computer based, yes, you can hit a backspace, you can, take that off, it's easier. If at all you're using a paper base or you have opted for that, use a pencil, a dark pencil to write, please, so that it's easier for you to, erase, take it off and replace with whatever word, intended word. And take care of punctuation as well as grammar. You are supposed to be taking care of commas, full stops, and capitalization. Now, let's say I'm talking about a country, Germany, China. Use them in capital letters, irrespective of wherever you're going to position the word in a sentence. Okay? Rest of it, you can have it in lowercase.
Ma'am, actually, I have a time management problem in writing tasks. So how can I do that?
How much time do you usually take?
Ma'am, it take half an hour for
And
only
how much?
writing task one.
Okay. Since how long have you been practicing the writing task one day?
Ma'am, about 2 months ago.
Okay, it's a very short time, don't worry. See, let us concentrate on accuracy part. What is accuracy? Whatever we write needs to be correct, dear, according to the parameters. So I would request you to work on accuracy first. Don't worry about time initially, not during your training at least. For whatever number of tests that you take during a training process, if it is 30 minutes, 35 minutes, don't worry. That will eventually fall in place. Once you expertise, once you understand, okay, this is how it needs to work, everything. The time is not a constraint at all, dear. But please do not exceed. You should set time. Make sure you finish the task within that, time slot.
Ma'am, I have a question. How can I practice the writing task one? What is the right way to practice it, ma'am? Can you suggest me something?
What is the right way? You just go to past papers, IELTS, just pick one of the diagrams. You need to know how to read the diagram first, even before you start writing. Okay, this is the type of a diagram. I know to identify the type of a diagram. I know how to read the data. Okay, this is 3.2. Okay, this is 4.5. Once I understand those basics, irrespective of the type of a diagram given to me, and then I look out for vocabulary. Now, if this is a type of a diagram, what word choice do I need to be using? Okay, I collate vocabulary to it as well. After which, then I'm going to check, okay, what tense form am I using? Writing is a continuous process. Do not stop. Okay, I have probably written this. The more you write, the more different types of diagram. Oh, yes, another thing that I wanted to, address is, I could be during your IELTS exam, you could be having just one type of a diagram. Okay, I just have bar chart, I just have pie charts. You could also expect combination of diagrams, like there are two different diagrams, two different data altogether. That is also a possibility. Now, what do I do in such a scenario? I'm just going to dedicate one paragraph for one diagram and another paragraph, that is body paragraph one. Let's say I have a table, I'm going to dedicate for that. Paragraph two, I have a pie chart. So for the same, there as well, you're expected to use specific vocabulary and compare and contrast. You don't have to compare between those two different diagrams. Compare within the table, within the pie chart. Check whether the components are the same or different before you do that. That's also a possibility. Let's remember. Let's not, let's probably throw some light on the same. Yes,
Ma'am,
dear.
actually, I have a problem in overall how to write overall
Overview.
sometime. Yes,
Hmm.
overview.
Okay. What problem do you have, dear?
Ma'am, in that, like in diagram, I don't know how
Mm.
what should I write. So sometimes I have problem.
You could write anything there. See, when it comes to writing task one, the beauty of it is there is nothing called as this is a right. See, when it comes to listening and reading, we are supposed to be filling in the gap with a specific word. Only if I write a specific word will that be taken as the right answer or an error. But in writing task, no. You as an individual, see, if at all there is the same type of diagram given to us both, you could be having a different sentence structure, different, terminologies used altogether, and components that you have compared and contrast. So you could be taking anything there. Talk about the highest, the least, or if at all there are any exceptional cases, talk about it. Let me give you an example there. There are like okay, four different products being given, okay, and you have like 3 or 4 countries, and you see one of the countries is actually in spent a lot of money on almost all the products. Talk about that. Summary is what you are supposed to be writing in overview, dear. Just 1 or 2 sentence, that's more than enough.